Hello, everyone. Hello.
Hi,
Hi.
how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Oh, you have a different hairstyle today.
Yeah, I just finally washed my hair and slicked it back, so
I know it is.
new mom, so I have nothing to do, so this is what we're doing.
Exactly. How's Tesh doing?
He's good. He's been great today.
Oh,
Um, he's doing some cool milestones, so yeah.
oh, nice. So
Yeah.
what milestone did he just realize?
Keeping his head straight and doing it
Mm,
by himself. Yeah.
big deal for newborn.
I know. He'll be 3 months on Saturday, which is crazy.
Wow. Yeah, the time flies. So we have to appreciate every single moment.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Oh, we have
So,
some people joining already. Glenn
yeah.
Chowdhury, Lydia from Alexis Naturals.
Hey, loves. Today we have a really good one for you. Today we're going to talk about childhood trauma and how to cope with it. And I have a few tips and tricks that you can use. Um, and Amina has a little story that she would like to share. I think we all go through childhood trauma. Um, and we'll start in a few, I guess, before I get into the whole thing because I could feel myself already ready to go into it, and I was let me stop for
And
a
do
second.
it. I should
Yes,
always remember to introduce ourselves. We
I
keep on
know that's the thing. So, hey, loves, I am Judith, the owner of Collage. I know I'm laughing, because I just like to just get into it, like you guys already know me, right? No, but you don't. I'm the owner of Collage. I'm Judith. I do I do a lot of things. I have crystals, I have crystal jewelry, I do healing services like Reiki, yoni steams, cupping, a whole bunch of stuff. A lot of my services can be done remotely, or I can ship you the stuff to do it yourself, or you can come into the physical shop. Um, I have lots of products on the website as well. And I'm always available to chat with you on your spiritual journey, whether you're in the beginning stages, middle, or end. Um, and yeah, and I love helping people. And I teamed up with Amina so we can do this amazing Wednesday session where we, talk to you lovely people about some different topics that come across the both of our desk. And we'd like to share our voices and our opinions on it, especially for our own people. We did start a podcast. Well, I already had a podcast, but we did start season 2 of the podcast, which is mainly about mental health and healing, whether you have the tools or not, and easy tips and tricks on how to maneuver through life with all the craziness that's happening and how to overcome all of that. So, Amina, now, without further ado, you can introduce yourself.
Thank you, Judith. I'm so excited. It's like the Wednesday night is now what I look forward to for my week. So this is a blessing in every way. But my name is Abisol Amina. I am from the beautiful island of St. Lucia, where I am the founder of a mental health movement called Let's End Mental Health Stigma Now. and also Mental Health Minute. So I am a mental health advocate, and I am very passionate about, and I'm sorry, I'm also a depression and suicide survivor. So I am very passionate about mental health and educating and raising awareness towards anything to do with mental health. And when I went through my own 4-year bout of depression, which almost took my life, I had to find what worked for me, and my journey of self-healing, of having compassion enough for myself to pull myself out of a dark place. It allowed me a beautiful experience for me to find out what worked for me. And through that process, I am now healed enough and willing to share my process and what worked for me, what didn't work for me. And also, as Judith said, within our community, within the Black community, the Caribbean community, as we know, mental health is neglected significantly. We have very low to almost zero mental health support. And I think the movement like ours, Let's End Mental Health Stigma Now, with a YouTube channel and on all platforms you could find us, is essential. And the conversations we are having, going back to the root, especially tonight, this is such an important discussion we're going to have tonight. So stay tuned. It's going to be very heartfelt. We are going to go to the meat of the matter, to the roots of the problem, so that we are able to understand what our symptoms are and what healing patterns or paths we should take for us to become better people and get over our mental health issues.
Definitely. And if you guys have any questions, please feel free to jot them down. We are open to answering any of your questions for tonight. Without further ado, I guess we should just jump right in. It's about that time. So, childhood trauma. What does that look like? To be honest, childhood trauma can start in utero. It could be from how your mom was treated, how you were conceptualizing what she was going through, the food she might have eaten, the conditions she was under. That starts your journey with understanding what trauma is with the body and thinking that it's normal, the form of birth too. Some say C-section or vaginal births. People have different experiences in their livelihood if they were born through a vaginal experience or through a C-section. I'm a C-section baby, and I can definitely tell you I am traumatized by a lot of things. So, but I am healing through that. One thing is water, and being a C-section child, and I've noticed a lot of other people who were born through C-section are afraid of the water because you were ripped out of the waters of your mom and came in a different, completely unnatural way, and removed from all types of natural things and then tested or whatever. So it just, that was traumatic in itself. So do I know how to swim? No, I am deathly afraid. But I do like being by the beach. I do like the water. I do like the essence of it. But would I go in there? Hell no, because I would just lose my mind. Which is funny because I will take my son to learn how to swim because I feel like he would be a natural. Whereas vaginally born people have less fears and tendencies to, they have an easier way to cope with certain things. And there are studies out there, I forgot which ones for the live, but I could look it up as you talk, Amina, and go through those. But yeah, that's the beginning essence of how some people form their beginning stages of trauma. And then it goes in a, whatchamacallit, it goes from 0, basically newborn, to 18 years old. That's what childhood trauma, that's the span of what that is. So something could happen to you as easily as being ignored. Some of us children, especially in the Black and Brown community, our parents had to work multiple jobs. So not being comforted when you were younger or had attention paid to you, when you become older, you tend to not trust anyone to do anything for you or with you because you feel like you're going to be stuck at the end of the day, which is a limiting belief, by the way. But if you approach life like that and that's what you're used to and you made that a habit, it definitely trickles down into your adulthood and it doesn't get any better. And there's plenty other things that are childhood trauma, but I'll stop rambling and have Amina speak a little bit upon that. So yeah,
While you were speaking, my brain was like shooting, like bang, bang, bang. I
I know,
want
I
to
can
talk.
see your eyes. I can see your eyes. Please feel free to cut me off. I mean, this
No,
is a
it's
conversation.
so so gripping, and I think the information was is so good that I couldn't interrupt. But just to add to what you're saying when it comes to the in utero part, which I think that a lot of people do not even realize the significance that the environmental factors or the environment that a pregnant mother is in, contributes significantly and can actually change the structure and the DNA of a child in utero. If a mother is in a volatile relationship where there's constant domestic violence or constant yelling, and so the stress hormones that the pregnant mother will always be in, because she's always in fear and flight or fight stage or
Hmm.
state in her life. So, and we are not meant to be in that state permanently. So when you are constantly in that, you develop toxic stress and all of the negative, not negative, but the so-called bad hormones start to permeate your body. It now goes into your amniotic fluids, and your child now is being fed all of those hormonal hormones, negative hormones or bad hormones and chemicals that causes stress in a child. And another factor that is unfortunately very prominent in our community is sexual violence. Children that are born or conceived under sexual violence, whether it's rape, whether it's molestation, whether it's through any type of sexual violence, we do not even understand the untold effect that it has, sorry, on the unborn child. Because when you imagine you are a newborn and your first experience is through a violent act you were conceived, and now, and a lot of times a woman, because I've done the research, a woman who was, for example, raped, and that's how a child was conceived, a lot of these women, they have a lot of resentment and negative feelings towards that child in utero. So imagine a child in utero which kind of feel and understand, and they know what's going on, no matter how small they are, and they're thinking that okay, they don't feel, or no, as long as the baby is there, they are already have the DNA and they already know what's going on. So imagine a mother who has gone through this sexual violence experience and traumatic experience and now has to bear a child. Do you understand the effects that would have on the unborn child? And the mother herself trying to protect herself, she's detached from that child. And a lot of times after the child is even born, that detachment, the first experience a child is having when a mother's not natural reaction should be to comfort, to attach. That's when you attach to your child. But the entire process in utero, and even after you birth the child, there is still a disconnect between you and this child. So imagine how lonely of a person or the trauma that newborn baby is already been experiencing, even before it takes its first breath, even before it's already traumatized from the womb because of that sexual act or that violent act. And then mothers go through, a lot of times who've been through those traumatic experiences, they tend to go to postpartum depression, and they further isolate themselves and detach themselves from the newborn, leaving this newborn always feeling a sense of being alone, always feeling a sense of being detached. So imagine that child already has preconceived or predisposed ideas of what life is, just by being ignored or by not being cared for from the beginning, or being given even prenatal care from inside of the womb. All of that is significant, and sometimes we don't connect the dots to see when a child is acting up, especially when the child is like 0 to 3. That's where again they develop a lot of their understand. And when I read that, it was shocking to me when I found out between 0 to 3, these formative years of a child's life, where they understand language and they develop personality. those 3 years are so significant that whoever they develop during those 3 years, they tend to be that person throughout their entire lives.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I found one of the studies that I was reading earlier. The author of the study is R. Verdolt. I'll write his name down. You could definitely look into that and see more about the differences between vaginally born people versus cesarean birthed people and how they perceive the world. And I'm a scientist first, so I love research. I love learning and connecting the dots to things that I'm confused about. I love puzzles. I like fixing puzzles. Um, uh, I think people, we are puzzles, so I like to figure things out. So this is definitely, he's a good start on how to learn the different aspects of the child's mind and development versus how they were when they were a child to their adulthood. Um, Another thing to think about when it comes to childhood trauma, this is a study that I thought was insane because I thought the numbers would be different. But did you know sexual assault or abuse on children, the numbers are 3 in 5 women are sexually assaulted before they turn 18, and 4 in 5 men are sexually assaulted before they turn 18. And I thought the women would be more. No, it's the boys.
And I'm not, you know why I'm not surprised is because a girl was more likely feel more comfortable in telling of her sexual trauma over a guy talking about sexual trauma because of the cultural differences. You know, a man, even if you're a boy, we are born into a culture where we tell even our little boys that you're supposed to be tough. So imagine you've been violated. And remember again, especially if a male violates a young boy, with all of the negative, again, stigmas with being gay, they hear that a lot. Once a lot of people who have been sexually traumatized or violated by another male, they tend to feel as if they may be gay because that happened to them. And I've heard those kinds of stories before. So because of those reasons, I believe a lot of people, a lot of young boys or men will not come out and say because of those negative stereotypes to say because of shame that they've been violated. And I think that's one of the reasons why the statistics are more alarming for the men because of that.
Definitely. Alexis Natural just posted, I'm a cesarean born, and it's true about water for me also. I actually forced myself to learn how to swim to overcome it, but the fear is still there a little. I mean, don't get me wrong, I know how to float now, but still the inability to control the water and to not have my feet on the ground, it just drives me wild. I don't know what it is, but there are therapies out there to help snap you out of that. And I guess the next episode that we have, I will definitely try to plug that in because it's slipping my mind what the woman does. But she can do therapy for adults who had issues in their childhood when it comes to swimming, and help you snap out of it and teach you how to swim without that fear of your childhood becoming present. So that's kind of cool. I don't remember what it was called, but I'll try to remember, and Ledia, I will send it over to you. So back to the other topics of trauma. So emotional trauma is very real when it comes to childhood. And emotionally, you could become distant from people, and it causes issues in your adulthood because some people feel like they can't be loved or aren't lovable enough. And that definitely starts with parenthood and or the adults in your life. Um, we're taught certain things. You know, we're taught to be this way or to be that way or to be strong or to be, forceful or um, uh, whatever it is, all these crazy terms that you have to be, but no one tells you to be vulnerable, to be innocent, to be caring, to be open-minded. No, they don't teach you this when you're young, and your innocence gets stripped away from you more and more every time something happens to you and you don't really have a voice to stand up for yourself.
Mhm. But that is so important. And there's so many, because a lot of times when we talk about trauma, we tend to think of more sexual and physical trauma, and we don't put the same weight on the emotional trauma, the words that parents use. And for me, I know a lot of my trauma, although I was not beaten a lot or I experienced sexual trauma growing up, but I realized too, one of the things that traumatized me a lot were the words that were used when talking to me and the things that were said to me while growing
While
up.
growing up.
Created certain ways of thinking for me, certain patterns of behavior, certain values based on some of the things that were told to me. So it is very important. And I read a quote that says that the child's inner voice is actually a parent's voice. The things that you say to your child determines their validation of who they are. You are actually giving your child an identity. So when you tell your child you are stupid or you dumb or all of those words that we use and we think these are casual words, those things leave scars, invisible scars within a child. And you are changing the child's DNA, because when you tell the child he's stupid, what kinds of emotions you think that will emit from that child and emanate from that child? It will be fear, it will be sadness, all those negative emotions again changes or triggers those negative chemicals within the body. And again, it could change a child's DNA or how the child becomes predisposed to even certain illnesses just by the way you speak to a child. So it's very important. There's scientific study to back all of this up. This is not just stuff that we're saying. And it's very easy to get this information online. So and the reason why we're bringing this stuff up, especially in this forum, is for you to know that, and for us to know that ignorance is right now, there's no excuse for our ignorance. There's no excuse for us to continue making the same mistakes over and over, and all of the negative cycles that we find ourselves in, and all the trauma, the generational trauma, and the toxic stress that we perpetuate within our families, just because we're not willing to just go and read some more research. And what I have found for myself, even when I started getting the new information to help me change my mindset and change my own self, based on some of the things, the research I was reading. When you do research and you become a self-advocate and you start going, when you want to really heal yourself, you start going to do research about the areas that you are struggling with. I found that a lot of the things that were mysterious to me while I was growing up, some of the behaviors that I had, some of the impulses that I had that I could not explain. When I started doing this research, I started to feel validated because my eyes were being opened. I'm like, when I first found out your emotional stress and the way that your emotional environment that you were raised in, and the perpetual negative self-talk or negative talk that your parents throw at you can actually cause physical pain in your body. That's the first time I realized the emotional trauma you experience can transfer into your body or manifest in your body as physical illness.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's very important for parents to pay attention to the things, especially they say that scar the children emotionally.
Definitely. Wow. That's that is true. Wow.
Yeah. And
So
there's even this research that says more than two-thirds of children reported at least one traumatic event by the age of 16.
I know
That's a lot.
that's insane.
Yeah.
So we all know that we all know someone or ourselves have faced some type of childhood trauma, and we don't want to talk about that anymore. So definitely want to get into the some of the things that you can use to heal
Yeah.
your childhood trauma. And there are a few. There is about 7 that I can think of right now. And Number one would be acknowledging and recognizing the trauma for what it is. Meaning, it is what it is. It happened. There's no turning back from there. Um, accept it, but don't let it rule your life.
Yeah. No,
Um,
absolutely.
some people to this day, some people might be 30, 40, 50 years old, and they'll take something that happened to them, whether it was in their childhood or it happened a couple years back or whatever, and they'll not connect the fact that they're mad at something that happened to them when they were a child, but something that happened to them in their adulthood, and not make that connection happen, and be mad for a very long time and stay in that mental state because they haven't healed from whatever it was. So understanding it is what it is, but you're going to need help.
Yes. And also an aspect of that is if you cannot name it, if you cannot put a name to it or know what it is, like if every one of all of these healing steps, they first all of them start with first acknowledging the problem. By naming the problem, now you will know what's next to what you can do next to heal it or what options you have. If you don't know what you're healing, you can't even start the process of healing, you know?
Very true. Number two is reclaiming your control.
Hmm.
No one has control over you. You have all the control. You have all the power right now. That's why I definitely respect people who come forward after they've experienced a traumatic experience, because they're saying, no, this is not going to happen to someone else. Let's definitely put this on the face of everywhere and make everyone aware of what is happening. Um, I feel like it should happen more times than none, um, because it's not enough to just speak your truth, but definitely help others understand the truth and heal from it. So definitely reclaiming control is something that definitely needs to happen. Number
Yes.
number three is seeking support and not isolating yourself.
Hmm.
Sometimes something will happen to you and you tend to revert into an introvert. And I'm an ambivert. I can be introverted at times and I can be extroverted at times. I feel like those who claim that they're introverts are people who have experienced trauma that don't want to be around people because that trauma revisits them whenever they're around certain types of people. So definitely knowing that you can seek support, and if it's not from a loved one or a close friend, then go get some professional help. It's afforded to you. And there's a lot of free help for our type of people. So go get it.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. In the States, it's that way, but within the Caribbean, it's very much different. And I was very blessed that when I felt sick, that I was in the United States and I got the type of help that I needed. Because I honestly believe if I were at home, I would, because of the aftercare, it was not even the hospitalization aspect that helped me, was aftercare when they gave me lifelong lessons and ways of taking care of myself and mechanisms of taking care of myself. So yes, so going to see a professional is important. In our community, a lot of people go speak to their pastors or go speak to some kind of somebody that could understand or maybe give you some kind of support until you find a professional that you could go to. Yeah.
Definitely. And we have to think about that too. There's people like yourself who's in a country where that's not normal, but we need to start making it normal.
Yep. And that's why I started the movement to speak up, especially a lot of people call me brave because I'm so open about my mental health and my mental ill and my depression and all of that and suicide stuff. And I'm open about it because of those reasons. We suffer silently. And a lot of the times the secrecy the trauma that we're experiencing. That's why we perpetuate it, because it's under secrecy and it's encouraged within our families. You know how many times I've heard of situations where children have been ill-treated or abused or have inflicted some kind of trauma, and they encourage the children to lie or suppress it, and they have to continue living under the same environment, in the same environment where the trauma is being perpetuated, and there's no way to help. So it's so important that we work as a community, especially now with the surge in mental health crises throughout the globe, not only within the Caribbean. We have to become more compassionate and check on your friend. When you see somebody is, especially when you see someone goes through very sudden changes, whether it's in personality, whether in appearance, whether it's in weight gain or weight loss, instead of, our first instinct is to judge or to laugh at or to ridicule, and we don't ever think we ourselves are going to be placed in this kind of situation. And especially now with how things are happening, you never know what may be a trigger inside of you, or what may happen, something that may have happened, as Judith said earlier, from your childhood, and now you are faced with something similar, or your child sometimes may end up going through the same kind of traumatic experience that you went through, and that in turn may trigger something in you. And here you are helpless because you've never faced it before. Now your child might be going through it also. So it's very important that we remain compassionate and more understanding, especially when people are hinting or have warning signs and signals that something might be going on with them mentally, to just be there for them, you know?
Hmm. Definitely. I 100% agree. Number 4, take care of your health. When we say take care of your health, like Amina just mentioned, some people might, gain weight, might lose weight, might eat horribly, or are physically unable of doing certain things. The list goes on. Taking care of your health should be your first and foremost initiative to taking back control of your body and your situation, because a happy person wouldn't think that much negative thoughts.
Yeah.
And eating better definitely makes you feel better. Don't go and, chug a bottle of liquor, or, don't down that bucket of ice cream, or, don't do certain things that'll definitely detriment your health and well-being, because that in itself can definitely cause a truckload of issues. And it's more expensive to visit the doctor when you're unhealthy than it is to visit the doctor for a regular routine checkup. And whether you have insurance or not, it gets annoying. And who wants to be in a waiting room with a bunch of sick people, because you're sick, because you inflicted that all on yourself? Nobody does. So definitely work on taking care of your health. And a little goes a long way, maybe walking a little bit once a day, or, stretching and moving your body, getting the fluids, rolling out in your body, not being all stiff and like shoulders touching your ears and stuff. Drinking more water, with that bucket of ice cream, or drinking that water with that gallon of alcohol, whatever. But definitely working on, I'm not telling you to drink alcohol or ice cream, like it's just a joke, but definitely work on, taking more care of yourself, because they say, you can't help someone if you can't help yourself, and you need to put your oxygen mask on before you help anyone in an airplane. So work on healing and working on, taking care of yourself before you try to do anything with anyone else. And I find that those who have childhood traumas sometimes, that are taking care of other people and neglecting themselves, are trying to overcome something. And and this is true for a lot of people who are, they're practicing avoidance. They're operating in avoidance, and because they want to avoid whatever the elephant in the room is, and that's themselves. So helping other people get better and healthy doesn't resonate with themselves. So please, 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 please work on healing yourself.
Yeah, another aspect of that I want to touch is the fact that a lot of times people who have gone through traumatic experiences or have gone through adverse childhood experiences tend to develop all kinds of coping mechanisms, unhealthy coping mechanisms from very young. And I could attest to that because from very young, in order to cope with the stress or whatever trauma I was experiencing, I know, I didn't even know I was experiencing trauma, but obviously some stuff was going on with me emotionally that when I feel sad or my response or my reaction to life or hardship or stress was food. I turn to food and I binge eat. And binge eating is when you eat a significant amount of food in a short space of time until sometimes you feel sick. And when you eat in the food, it feels temporary, you feel temporary catharsis because you it's almost like you want the food inside of your body to stop whatever pain, insecurity, whatever that thing that it is raising up inside of you. By eating the food, it's almost like you want to suppress that thing you don't want to face, that thing that's too painful. So we turn to food, some of us turn to alcohol. A lot of us do not associate childhood trauma and the way it has predisposed us towards certain negative or bad predispositions towards substance abuse. If your father was a substance abuser, whether it's alcohol or drugs, most likely you are highly predisposed to that type of way of reacting or using as a coping mechanism for your own trauma. So it's very important too, because I gained almost 250 pounds when I went through my depressive bout of 4 years, where I became almost unrecognizable. I used to eat pizzas and you don't want to eat anything healthy because it's comfort eating. It makes you feel temporarily good, but the long-term repercussions on your body, you start feeling low self-esteem because now you're ballooning, you're now gaining more weight, and you start now starting having other health problems. So while you are using the food to help manage or try to suppress or try to cope with whatever trauma you're experiencing or whatever discomfort, emotional discomfort that you're experiencing, you are adding more problems to your life and on your health, right? Because now you are adding more physical pain into your life and so forth. So it's very important for you to understand when you are sometimes turning to alcohol automatically as a response to stress, or food, for example, excessive eating, or as you say, you lash out, and some people tend to also sex. A lot of people, we don't talk about it, but some of us relieve a lot of stress through highly having a high sexual drive, and also when you have also have had sexual trauma. Sometimes we call young girls who've experienced sexual trauma without you even knowing they've experienced sexual trauma. You see, they react to life in a certain way. They become promiscuous. Some of them have become have teenage pregnancy happening to them, and a whole bunch of other things starts to happen, and they start reacting to life in a sexual way. And sometimes society, not sometimes, society never shows compassion for those children, for those women. And they're thinking they're just loose or easy, or they just love sex or whatever, or they prostitutes, or we know the negative names that we call people that react to life in that way. And sometimes we don't even think twice that this child or this woman who turned out that way probably have been raped by her own father and asked to suppress that all her life. And now her way of reacting to life is in that way. I'm not saying that that will happen to every person who's gone through that. I'm giving an example. So I'm just saying, please be open-minded. And when you see people or young women going through certain life experiences, or they change their behaviors that change rapidly, that's a big warning sign that something must have happened to that child. If the child was always full of personality and was always an outgoing child, all of a sudden the child has gone cold and isolates and they don't eat, and we ignore, and then we also will say stuff like they're womanish, or they're rude, not realizing that it's more than just that. Let's look beyond surface. Stop thinking and stop telling children that they're lying when they come to you with traumatic experiences. When they come to say, my teacher touched me inappropriately, the pastor touched me inappropriately. Stop telling the children they lie. Or my stepfather touched me inappropriately, or my uncle, whoever, another child touched me inappropriately. It is time for us to teach our children, even before they venture out into the world, what is inappropriate, is appropriate touching. And I'm so happy that in my family we do that with my niece. We teach her what is appropriate touching and what is inappropriate between adults, children, and everybody. So if anytime it happens, she knows her boundaries and she knows that her personal body is her temple. And nobody, whether it's another child, has no right to touch her inappropriately. And we need to teach children those types of values from very young.
Very true. Boys too. We can't forget the
Yeah,
little
both.
boys because, yes, we women have to protect ourselves, but some men are they react with their trauma or their manlyhood, and they act it out on women because they haven't been able to deal with that suppressed, emotional trauma or childhood trauma. So we have to teach both children, equally, that they have to, be respectful of themselves and not, always, react on the opposite sex or react to, whatever happened to them, and seek support. That was number 3. Definitely seek support. So yeah, that was yeah. Number number 5. Wait, before I get into that, you have to start teaching all kids from very young. Yeah, you have to teach all kids. I mean, kids are susceptible to everything. They learn from you. They learn from your environment. They learn from a lot of things. Things don't just pop out of thin air, So we definitely have to be mindful and watch what they're doing and see what they're doing so that they don't go through whatever a majority of the population went through.
Yeah, and just to add to that, a lot of parents they don't trust, they distrust their children because of some of what they did as children or what the relationship that they had with their parents. So if they came from a very distrustful parent-child relationship, instead of when they have their own children and they have not healed their own trauma or whatever problems that they have with their own parents, they become parents themselves and they distrust their own children. So again, when your child comes to you and says, so and so has happened. And when I remember having an interview with a local psychiatrist, Dr. Naomi, and she was saying that never tell a child that you are lying. If you even suspect the child is lying, don't tell to the child's face you're lying. Go and do your research and figure out what the truth is, because it is even more disastrous for you to tell a child they're lying and you go do the research afterwards and find out the child was actually telling you the truth. So it is very important. And Alexis Natural says sometimes boys are molested by women. Oh my God, which is very true. And we do not talk about that when young boys are being molested or being taken advantage from the female. That's something we don't talk about at all.
We don't, because we don't think it's normal, or it can't be that way. The boy wanted that, So yeah, we should, yeah.
Yeah.
And that's traumatizing, very traumatizing. I
And
think
also,
I think any sexual assault is traumatizing, but to have that happen by a woman on a young child, that's we have to see what happened to this woman. Where was she mentally, So again, she needs to seek help, and now this poor child needs to seek help. So it's detrimental, but let's look at the happier side, because I feel like we're definitely going on tangents that could, like, oh my God, I'm getting emotional because it's hard, it's tough, and this makes people not trust other people to leave their child. Like, I take my child everywhere I go.
I agree, but honestly, in this day and age, I think you shouldn't trust people with your children, period, because of some of the stories I've heard of the people you least expect.
Listen, I can go on and on about things I've heard, seen, experienced. It's just it's ridiculous.
What's
But
sad is because of the socioeconomics of certain parents or certain people, they cannot have childcare. A single mom And especially within, I worked within the hospitality industry, and that's one of the things that was the huge issue. A lot of single moms working those long shifts and had to leave their children. Sometimes they've not seen their children in days because of the way that they work. By the time the children awakes, they're already out to the door for work. By the time the children wakes up or comes back from work, they're sleeping already and they don't interact. So the family members are, and sometimes children raise children in a lot of households within our community. So who is parenting our children and who is looking after our children? So they're very vulnerable and easily preyed upon by the people that you trust the most, even the caregivers. So it is so important, and I know I'm very passionate about it because I know of the stories, and because I've done the research. I know because I went through my own process too of being traumatized, and the long life struggles that I had in trying to change impulses from behaviors from a child. So it is very important.
Definitely. But beautiful Femi, yeah, this is heartbreaking. And I didn't know how deep it would be to even think about that until I became a parent. So becoming a parent definitely shifts your mindset on, how to treat people and how to react to certain things. So yeah, that's definitely, yeah.
Alexa Natural said something here. She says, my motto is treat your child like $1 billion. You will not leave that amount of money just with anyone. Only difference is $1 billion can be replaced. That's very deep, Lydia.
It
That is
is.
so
And
true.
you can't replace a child, because I know a lot of mothers who've lost children to trafficking, you know,
Yeah. Oh
and
my God.
we could be on here for hours.
Yes.
I mean, hours just talking about certain things, but I want to talk about the good side, about the healing, you know? So,
I know. Yeah, we know that today was going to be heavy because of the
yeah.
subject matter, you know. So yes, let's move on to more a
Number
lighter.
five. Number five. Um, and I'm only laughing because it's a coping mechanism to, like, let go of some of this very tough, heavy, conversation. Yeah, I'm glad that you came today, beautiful Femi.
Yeah, I was
Um,
just laughing when I saw that. I'm like, she missed it last week.
yeah, so next, number five is learn the true meaning of acceptance and letting go. Last week we did we did two parts to the art of letting go. How to let go, how to work on forgiveness, and what forgiveness is and what forgiveness isn't. And like definitely seeding through and feeling out what you can do to overcome your trauma or your anger towards things. And some of us haven't even let go of some of our emotional trauma or physical trauma from our childhood. And how can you seek forgiveness for yourself or for the other things that's happened to you recently, or fresh in your mind, if you don't forgive things that happened to you when you were a child from 0 to 18? And some of my viewers might be between 0 and 18 that are watching. I don't know who's watching. Maybe not that young, but um, you're probably not far off from that age. So definitely work on healing some things that has happened to you in the past before you try to heal some things that are present to this day, because once you go to the root, think of your body and your memory as a tree. Once you go down to the root and you take care of those roots, they can definitely go deeper into the ground and make more beautiful leaves and flowers onto your tree. If you don't take care of that, it can become soiled, it can become unmanageable, and it could die.
Yes. And another aspect of that is that a lot of people who've experienced childhood trauma tend to blame themselves for what happened. And so the self-forgiveness aspect is so important um, to understand that you were innocent when it happened, and because go through that experience over and over. When we go through an experience as an adult, as I say, we sometimes the same environment or the same situation that caused the trauma, we tend to perpetuate it or repeat it over and over because we do not know how to heal it. we have not even accepted it or even recognized or be aware of it. So it is important when you do become aware and you don't blame yourself and you forgive yourself or have compassion enough for yourself. And it's a process that takes time. I had to go through that process myself, where you do a lot of blame. And then because the trauma influence behaviors in you, and you get to a point where you're older now and you realize, boy, I left a whole bunch of destruction, self-destruction behind me in the wake of me trying to figure myself out, being confused and having all of those emotional and depressive symptoms that and personality and mood disorders that I was experiencing all my life from 13 years old, being suicidal and having to deal with that. My reaction to life of stress was suicidal thoughts and being obsessed over trying. So a lot of the decisions I was making from my early teens all the way to my 30s was self-destructive ways of reacting to life. And I had to come to a point where I was going through my healing process to forgive myself for hurting or causing even more damage to myself because I had not been able to find out the root of the problem. It's only when I discovered the root of the problem, I was now able to seek the right healing modalities or the right healing things for me that helped me to be able to clarify and put the pieces of the puzzle together. So it is important. And without forgiving yourself and others, because despite what has happened in the past, and you taking full accountability, and when you take full accountability, again, it's not justifying what happened to you, or you're not saying that whatever or whoever did whatever to you is you're not making it okay for them to have done that to you. What you are saying is that I am ready to take full control of my life today. I am no longer the child that was abused, although I still feel the pain that came with that abuse. However, I am now in a better position to take control of my emotions, to take control and forgive myself. That's the first thing. Be your own self advocate. Have self compassion and say to myself, I will forgive my past. Even the stuff that I did to myself to continue hurting myself, I will also forgive myself for those things in order for me to move forward and for me to have a better life, especially if you have children. Don't only think about you. Remember the same trauma you experienced because your parent or somebody in your life caused that trauma. Imagine if you don't heal that, you are sometimes unaware that you are doing subliminally the same exact behavior to your children, and you are damaging your children and continuing the negative generational cycles without you even realizing it. So it is important that we take a pause, dig deep, go back and not be afraid of the demons of our past. It's hard, but do it. Do it for yourself and do it for your children.
Definitely. Ashe. I just wanted to say that. Girl,
Ashe, my sister,
say it.
Ashe.
Because I wanted to say that before, like you definitely need to break generational curses. A lot of people don't understand that, we're all healing, no matter where you're at life. I'm healing, but I know where I'm at. So I can definitely share experiences and share my knowledge and share all of that. So, I'm giving as well as I'm receiving.
Yeah,
So I 100% agree with you. Definitely heal some of your emotional trauma and your generational curses, because if you keep putting that into the DNA of the newborns or the new people, nothing's going to fix, nothing's going to change. So definitely, please, if you're having children or had children or whatever, help them break the generational curses so that we could all move forward and work on forgiveness. The world would be
absolutely.
a better place.
Yeah. And I think Rochelle said, forgiving yourself is the beginning of self-love. This is
Hmm.
absolutely.
It is. It is. Because if you're able to forgive yourself, it'll be easier to forgive other people and what they've done to you versus you being hard, bitter, and cold.
Yeah,
Number
absolutely.
s- Number 6, this kind of ties into what we're talking about. Number 6 is replacing bad habits with good ones. Some of us are told, oh, you constantly do this all the time. You need to think of your bad habits. Maybe it's, I'm trying to think of a bad habit I have. Some people lie a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Some people, and that's a coping mechanism. Some people never want to be home. Some people don't like confrontation, which is not a good thing. Some people think that's a bad thing. No, being assertive is not bad. Being
No.
avoidant and manipulated all the time is bad.
Yeah.
So, um, and the list can go on. So, working on your bad habits, understanding what those habits are, and shifting them to good habits. Because sometimes our habits are learned behavior that we use also as a coping mechanism to help avoid certain things that's happened to us in the past. So I want you guys, not today, but definitely in this week or next week, to think of all your habits, whether good, bad, or indifferent, and see which ones are taking too much time or space in your life that you can shift, eliminate, or delete. Well, same thing as eliminate, or adjust so that you could have a better understanding of yourself and your life. So
Yeah.
definitely look into your habits, write them down, and figure that out.
Yeah.
And number 7, I think we all need this and definitely need to hear this, is be patient with yourself. I can't stress that enough. People, we are not patient with ourselves. We're more patient with other people than we are with ourselves. And if you've experienced trauma in the past and you are the victim and you constantly blame yourself for what it is that happened to you, please take a step back. Walk away from that thought pattern and become more, realize that one, it happened, right? Recognize it for what it is. Two, definitely think, okay, I can't deal with this right now, and work on healing myself. Let me give myself some time. Let me give myself a minute to reset, reflect, and move on rather than sit and dwell and fester. So give yourself some time, give yourself patience, give yourself that humility that you would give someone else if they were in the same position and you're looking at them and saying, okay, I got to give this person time and space. No, 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 no. Give yourself time and space. Don't
Yes.
rush into anything. Don't do anything outside of what it is that you want um, your healing to look like.
Mm-hmm. And for me to quickly just add to this, because I know the time is up, when you look at also time and giving yourself time and being patient, also remember too, especially as an adult, your childhood trauma happened and it caused a lot of negative repercussions for a very long time. So when you are going through your healing process, do not be too impatient with yourself, because what took decades to accumulate in your subconscious, it will take a little bit of time for you to, deal with some of those problems and find solutions to it. So when you're on your healing path, very gentle with yourself, be patient with yourself. And remember, if it took me decades for it to inflict me and to cause the damage, perhaps I need a little bit more time for it to heal.
Definitely. Like I've said in the past few couple weeks, that it took me 4 years to heal from a specific trauma that I experienced. And I did give myself that time to recognize what it was and heal from it. Whereas,
Yeah.
someone else might still be dwelling in that situation. Um, Time is on your side. Please don't think you have to get this over by tomorrow. It doesn't work like that. Time is on your side, ladies and gentlemen. Give yourself that much time to get to the healing that you deserve versus, trying to rush into something that's not going to work. And my favorite quote, nothing happens before its time.
Absolutely.
Nothing. Please believe that it's true because we put ourselves in situations that we don't need to, only to avoid what the inevitable is. So please give yourself
Yeah.
some time.
Yes. And healing is a lifelong journey. we can take our time to heal ourselves, especially when it comes to traumatic experiences. We can do more damage if we're not ready and we force our healing. So it's time for us to just take some time and allow it to flow naturally, and you will know your soul will guide you and your intuition will let you know when you're ready for more, when you can heal more stuff. So just take time and allow your intuition to guide you.
Definitely. I think this was great. If nobody has any other questions, you can definitely go check out our podcast where we went in on this very much topic. It's Awakened Guidance Podcast. I will definitely link it to this live video. This will be on the replay in my IGTV, so please go check it out. And I would like to say thank you so much for joining us tonight. Amina, it's always a pleasure. And
Thank you.
I love you guys. Definitely check us out for the next one. What are we talking about next week, Amina?
Oh, let me check. Let me check. I think it's crystals. How to
Yep.
use crystals.
We're going to
Is
talk
it?
about how to use crystals. I will have some sample crystals here in all shapes, forms, and sizes. And yeah, it'll be a great Q&A for anyone who
Oh,
needs to know how to use it.
no, I'm sorry, it's not how to use crystals. Next week is the 10th. So that would be what is energy healing?
Even better, we can talk
Even
about energy
better.
healing.
Even better.
Beautiful Femi, you can definitely check the replay. I will have it up in a few minutes. So
And on mine too. And on Facebook tomorrow, I will have everything up on Facebook as well.
definitely have a great night, you guys.
Hi, guys.